Susie, my dear friend.
Oh, thank you again so much, Lynn. And thanks again, Rev Wayne. Throwback Thursdays. Awesome. Um, so we were on chapter 6 for A Course in Mysticism and Miracles by John Mundy. And I have a bookmark in there from Pathways of Light when I first got started with the course. I did take a few classes through them, and this bookmark, I just want to read what it says. I remember who I am. I accept that I am love. I release all judgments of others and know that they are doing the best they can. I keep my life simple and follow my highest path. I stay in tune with the highest source within me and let it guide my ways. I am gentle and kind with myself and others. I pace myself with one step at a time. I know the perfect circumstances present themselves for my perfect continued growth. I am love. I am joy. I am peace. Pathways of Light bookmark. So that's a beautiful reminder, and it's funny. I've been using that bookmark the whole way through here, and I just noticed the words again. Remembered those words again. Are like just interesting that we read something and then kind of put it in our book, and then it's right there in front of me, but I forgot all about it. And there you go again. Here we come back to where we were before. And we remember. So last week we had read about the ladder of separation, as the Course in Miracles speaks of that. We have descended into illusion and another ladder that leads us back across the bridge to the real world. We make this journey through several different levels of perception to arrive at the place where there is just one mind, free of division. That's very interesting because there's through several different levels of perception, talking about all the possibilities. And as we continue to think up new possibilities, we're creating the world. We're putting this back into the world. And I know I recognize that with telling a story that I might have a problem with. And when I used to keep telling it over and over and over, well, yes, I gave that story life by regurgitating it all the time. And it's so evident because now I'm like, no, I'm not going to feed that story. Or I'll see it and it'll be like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm not trapped by that illusion. And I don't go down the rabbit hole. Rabbit hole maybe robs me of my life, my true life, love, and just the flow. So let's go on here. Levels or stages of spiritual development are more clearly seen as we look backward over the path we have trod, like I just did. As Danish philosopher and mystic Soren Kierkegaard explained it, life must be lived forward, but it can only be understood backward. Wow. I love that because I know there was a time when I was overwhelmed with this obsession to keep buying books, and then I didn't read them, and I asked for a better way, like there's books I would like to read, so help me with this. And what happened was reading out loud. I started in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. I still read books there, and I just find that this helps me. It's a selfish thing that I'm doing, really, because and all of life should be selfish, and that's not a bad thing. It's not selfish in an arrogant sense. It's selfish in that I'm taking responsibility for me and my mind. And selfishly, I ask, how can I repurpose this? I get that back by reading out loud in these forums where we're allowed to do this, which is awesome. And I'm so grateful because these are books that I've wanted to read because I feel like, yes, they can help this brain of mine sort of just, I know I can't solve the problem within this brain, but at least I know that these are tools that have really helped me, really clearing the sky. So life must be lived forward, but it can only be understood backward. And another tip I got, we call it Holy Spirit, or I just call it inner teacher or wisdom, or sometimes Holy Spirit. I know sometimes I say I got not a problem, but I have to sort of agitation with God, that word sometimes, because it just has a negative story attached to it for me. But I don't have to live in that, so I can let that go. And then the other thing was to read the books from the back to the front. I heard just read the book backwards. So I started doing that with a few. Very interesting because a lot of them I had started them. So from reading from the back, I was sort of getting the gist of it again. So very helpful when you ask and you're willing to have a better way, a different way, then I think that's when things can drop in because clearing out the old gives room for the new stuff to come in. Otherwise, there was no room. My head was too stuffed. What was meaningless before becomes the lesson we needed to learn. Serious students develop a sense of astuteness, I don't know what that word is. Serious students develop a sense of astuteness. It's Perspicacity. Perspicacity. I don't even know what that means. And discernment about, I guess they're all the same, maybe astuteness, perspicacity, and discernment about what is essential and what they can let go of on their spiritual journey. From an early point in life, some people are clear about being called and therefore are on a spiritual path. Others may have little or no awareness of any spiritual path until something happens, perhaps the death of a loved one or a health issue that forces them to take a closer look at life. Our next section is called Reality as Parable. A myth or story is a metaphor for life. Since we cannot see the ineffable with physical sight, we sometimes need symbolism to make it more clear. In mystical literature, the translator that makes the ineffable knowable is often the myth, the metaphor, the tale, the dream, the story. The Gospel of Matthew tells us that Jesus never spoke to people directly, but always taught through stories called parables. And that's from Matthew chapter 13 in the Bible. 20th century German theologian Rudolf Bultmann spoke of the parables of Jesus as stories about the other side, told in terms of this side. A story plants a seed. Its theme remains after the story is told. Without parables, the teachings of Jesus would sound like those of many philosophers, profound but unengaging. The meaning of his message is understood on a deeper level because of the illustrative quality of the parables he used to teach us. The imagery of the stories provides a hint of something more. We often hear more in poetry or music than we do in essays. We can intuit more from a surrealist work than we can from a realistic one. Moreover, Jesus' life itself is a parable, a description of the pathway to the kingdom. At an early age, he was sure of his destiny, tormented, crucified, and given every reason to be angry. Jesus, like any true mystic, remained faithful to his clear perception of God's call. From Bethlehem to Golgotha, his is a hero's journey. It is also your story and mine. It belongs to each one of us, unique and divine. You know, this makes me think of the other day I had this thought about a game. We play these games, they're called awakening games. Regina Dawn Akers has audios on their site that people can look at. And I was resistant to these games, but I always went to the meeting because the person that has that program, I'm very fond of, and I love to listen. But I never actually did any of these awakening games. Until one day I did. I did the awakening game, not good, not bad, is. So when I found myself thinking of, oh, that's good, or oh, this is bad, and you remember, you would say not good, not bad, just is. So this is the awakening game. So at the end of these, we were working on maybe trying to think of our own awakening game. And a couple nights ago, this game came to me as I was talking to my husband about something. And I'm talking, this game will be for, just small things. And I know we say there's no level of difficulty, but in this world there is, there's just a little, maybe a speck of dirt on the floor or a big pile of dog poop on the floor. So, I mean, I'm going to clean the dog poop, but I might leave the speck. There is a difference in my mind. So, anyway, we're talking, and I was saying something, and his response was clearly not the story that I was telling him. It wasn't what I was seeing in my mind that I was creating as I was talking to him. And, there was a time in the past where I would just like repeat and, no, this is what I mean. And then, he would be like, da, da, da. And I would get frustrated because I can't articulate what I'm seeing. And now he's not understanding. He's seeing a different story. And I thought the other day, I was like, I just stopped and I was like, well, who cares? Who cares what my story is or his story is? And who am I to take away the story that he's got going on in his head now that I'm sharing? So I was like, I'm just going to let him have it. Let him have his story, right? Like, why would I take that away from him if it doesn't bring any value to the conversation anyway? I just went along with it and let mine go because it was irrelevant anyway. So I loved that lesson. It was like this beautiful practical lesson, because then I'm not just in life trying to defend even my little story of trying to explain to somebody something that I'm thinking about. I mean, I'm never going to know if somebody truly understands what I'm saying anyway. And so I'm just going to let them have it. So that's my awakening game. It's called Let Them Have It. So thank you, Jesus or Holy Spirit or inner wisdom or source for that awesome game. Because as I talked to my husband about it, he said, I think you might have something there. Because that's true, because right away you get defensive if you're, he said, and I get defensive because then I'm feeling stupid because I can't understand what you're saying. And then just this simple little conversation has just, it's this little upset, which carries on throughout your day if there's no awareness to it and the light isn't shine upon that, because it just lives there in the dark recesses of our minds. I teared Netta. And it just sits there and rears its ugly head because it doesn't know any better. It's just sitting in the dark. It hasn't seen the light. So that's my awakening game. All right. Go back to the story. It's also your story and mine, but the interpretation of it belongs within that mind of that individual. Okay. In the 1960s, I enjoyed reading the work of British-born American mystic Alan Watts, who was largely responsible for introducing and then expanding New Age culture to Zen Buddhism. In his 1957 book, The Way of Zen, Watts defines mythology as an image by which we try to make sense of the world. Mythology and parables are both ways of sharing the ineffable, abstract truth of ultimate reality. To decode this abstract truth, however, we have to look at what is going on beneath the story. We have to demythologize the story to find out what it is saying on a psychological level. A myth is not true in any literal sense, but the story has an impact on the human psyche. I use the word psyche here in its broadest sense to refer to the whole mental and psychological structure of a person, the heart, mind, soul, and spirit of which we are all a part. Because we are one, we all share truth on a psychic level, always. And I believe this because, when just even with certain people, especially my mom, I would phone my mom or she would phone me, and the other would always say, "I was just thinking of you," and just that connection on that psychic level. It's like, for me, it's like radio waves. Radio waves. I can't see them, but they're going along in the air. They're going along in the air. The music is playing. The stuff is playing through the air in waves. Like, really, that's amazing. So how would I think my mind and your mind and mine could be any different? It's just playing in the frequency, and it's all there. And I think, however it comes through each individualized expression is just whatever that conditioning was, the beliefs, whatever the thinking mind thinks it is. The next section here, 6, is, I think it's called Individuation and the Mystic Journey. In the spring of 1973, I was privileged to attend a seminar titled Hero Mythology, taught by Joseph Campbell, who is regarded as the 20th century's greatest mythologist. Much of Campbell's work is based on Jung, who in turn built upon the work of Freud. But while Freud explored the unconscious, Jung looked deeper into the collective psyche of mankind to see what he could find in dreams, myths, fairy tales, and the esoteric sciences, alchemy in particular. Jung describes spiritual growth as the process of individuation, the gradual integration and unification of the self, capital S. Individuation, according to Jung, was a coming to terms of the inborn germ of wholeness with the outer act of fate. Wow, coming to terms of the inborn germ of wholeness with the outer act of fate. All or nothing. In the course, workbook lesson 358, the course gives us this simple prayer. Let me remember that myself is nothing, and myself is all. So little f self, big F self. And to me, that's this thinker, the thinking, like my heart beats, my body knows how to beat my heart and breathe. I don't think about that. And my body thinks in a brain which is confused and thinks it's actually a person. And there's all this talking or dialogue or stuff going on in there. That's just this little self that I think I created or think is me. And myself, that capital S, is the one that hears the awakening game that says, oh, I'm gonna let him have it. That's my big S self, because it's guiding me, and it's giving me a better way. Anything that's a better way and leaves me in peace and love and kindness is higher self. In my opinion, that's my belief. While the goal of God remains the same for everyone, however, the spiritual pathway is highly individualized. And although the result of the mythic journey, namely God realization, remains the same, each mystic story has a unique expression in time. According to Campbell, the adventure of the hero is the adventure of being alive. Oh, I just got that too very clearly about just living. That is the adventure. Absolutely the adventure. Especially given that there's been times in my life where the thinking mind has been wanting me to demise myself, unalive myself. It's like that is the ultimate sin against everything that's happening, because this true adventure is of being alive and allowing this expression to flow through me in clarity and clearness, without these stories and reinterpreting it. And I love that it gets reinterpreted. I love it. And I didn't used to, because I didn't know, but I hadn't had that experience really. I thought I was having the experience, but I wasn't. But that's okay. That's where I was. And then each step, each little moment that passes, little things are happening. I can't see all of them. I'm not privy to all of it. But I know there is shifting and changing, because nothing is staying the exact same. It's always shifting, always changing. There is a unique path for each of us. If the path we are following in life isn't clear, then, he said, we must follow one of the world's prescribed paths. And that is always frustrating, as then you feel you're missing out on something. What we're missing out on is meaning and purpose. The course calls problems set up to be incapable of solution. Favorite ego devices for impeding learning progress, and tells us that these diversionary tactics simply keep us from asking the one question that is never asked by those who pursue them. What for? What for? Oh, I love it, Karen. A million baby steps equals a gigantic leap. Buddha Betty. That's beautiful. Isn't that so true? And then if there's all these million baby steps, how are you going to see progress? Because it's so minute, you can't even recognize it. But change is happening. What for? This, the course insists, is the question that you must learn to ask in connection with everything. What is the purpose? Whatever it is, we are assured, it will direct your efforts automatically. So what is the purpose? Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? Am I saying that? Did I just say that out of fear to defend myself? Well, I'm in a in a clouded mind. I don't like to call them wrong and right mind anymore either, because I'm trying to get out of that. It's just a clouded mind. It's cloudy, and I don't have my clear skies. There's another song, right? I can see clearly now, the rain has gone. I think, what time is it? 11:58. We're going to be starting a new program soon. So I think I'll just stop there maybe, and then we can give a little time because people are coming in. And I'll just pause here, and next week I'll pick it up with A Course in Mysticism and Miracles. And I thank you all for listening. I'm grateful to be here. I'm excited about our new program too.